One of the biggest questions I get from home buyers in Florida is what is going on with the homeowners insurance? Where is it heading? How much is it going to cost me? And what should I look for when buying a home? Well, I brought on a good friend of mine, Todd Beal. He's with Insurance Express. And today he's going to tell you all the ins and outs of homeowners insurance in Florida and how you can save money and make sure that you're not buying the wrong policy. So with that said, let's bring Todd on. So Todd Beal, thanks for joining us today, man. I really appreciate you coming and joining our community here and letting us learn a little bit about what's happening with this crazy insurance in Florida right now, because it is a complete nightmare for people. And I know people coming into the state, which is a lot of our community on our channel here, are really concerned about the insurance and what house they should buy. And, should they buy a new house? Should they buy an old house? What the insurance situation looks like for the West Coast and the East Coast. So I know you're full of information. We talked before. So before we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself and your company, bro.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Lee, thank you so much for having me on, man. It's been a pleasure to get to know you and our connection very quickly and appreciate everything that you're doing. So, yeah, absolutely. So my name is Todd Beal. Our company is Insurance Express. We actually have a division called Quote/Insurance that deals and works directly with real estate agents, realtors, and their clients and the mortgage groups. But essentially, we are a brokerage. We've been around since 1994. Originally, was domiciled and started up in Boston, Massachusetts, and then came down to Florida. And I've been doing this insurance thing for over a decade, man. So I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so we work with realtors, mortgage brokers, and clients in order to try to secure and walk them through the crazy insurance market that we have going on right now. But our job is to kind of just be a tool on the tool belt to give them best coverages, but also for the lowest or most competitive, I should say, possible rates, because you just hit it, man. Insurance is probably the craziest we've seen in maybe ever at this point.
Yeah, I mean, right? Since I've lived in Florida, I can tell you that, and I've been here, 35 years, man. And it's just like, and every year it gets worse and worse, especially with the hurricanes just rolling up into the Gulf every single year now. It's just crazy. And I know people are really afraid of that. And, a lot of comments we get are, oh, the homeowners insurance is so high in Florida, but there's ways to mitigate that. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on today. But real quick, man, talk about where you see insurance heading right now. Let's start there because I know that the state's doing a few things. They're talking about certain, different avenues to go to try to mitigate the cost. So where do you see this thing going?
Yeah, man, it's you are absolutely right. And I don't want this to always to be doom and gloom, because it's certainly not. And there is definitely some positive things happening on the horizon. To really understand where we're going, I think we got to take a step back and realize where we are and why it is the way it is, right? And so just to kind of give a little bit of a history of why we're seeing rates increase and why we're seeing, prices that seem so high. And Lee, I've seen it where on the mortgage or real estate side, it's actually insurance has been so high that it's messed up a transaction, right?
It blows the DTI out. Like crazy.
Yeah, it's messed up the DTI, or they
and the payment. And the payment. Like, I always tell like really first time buyers, I mean, I'll just jump in here, is that the newer the house, the better off you are, because your insurance rate is going to adjust compared to, a new construction. You're somewhere around 1,800 to 2,000. But when you get into a house that's over 15-year-old roof, then we start getting into some trouble.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And the reason that we're seeing what we're seeing now is, especially in Florida, but it's really starting to creep all over the country, is really the increase and the birth of all of these companies that are popping up now, kind of these third-party companies that you see coming into the market, where after there's a storm or after there is something that happens, you have somebody knocking on that door saying, hey, just had a storm, Todd, and this happened in my neighborhood. This actually happened to us. And I'm like, this can't be real, man. But you now have, after a storm, somebody come to your door and say, hey, would you like to get a new roof?
Right.
And that, that sounds great in theory. It sounds great.
Right.
But the reality is people don't know. And they say, hey, just AOB, assign your benefits over to us. We're going to they take it and they then sue the insurance company on your behalf. And unfortunately, because of how often this is happening, and again, there are some claims that are absolutely legit. Let me say that. It's not all fraud, okay? But what we're seeing a lot of in Florida, it is the highest state in the country right now for insurance fraud that we see going on. So they're then suing the insurance companies on their behalf. And unfortunately, it's now causing everybody's rates to rise, even those that have never made a claim or have never had any insurance issues. And we have carriers, Lee, that are now going into receivership. They're going bankrupt. They're going out of business. They're losing millions and millions of dollars. And,
it's important that people realize this isn't health insurance.
Yes.
That, I personally, I think health insurance is a real mess and it's a scam right now. And doctors hate it and we hate it, but this isn't health insurance. This is a real deal where these insurance companies aren't making millions and billions of dollars off of their clients. They're going bankrupt when they have these huge hurricanes hit, like just hitting on the West Coast last year.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right. And I probably should have led with that. We do homeowners insurance, right? It's not
right. Homeowners insurance. Yeah.
Homeowners insurance that we're talking about, obviously.
Right.
But
well, people pretty much know that because it's a real estate site.
Of course. So. The good news is this, man. You're absolutely right. And you said it. It's like everything. It's like on the mortgage side, on the real estate side, you have ups and downs and you have a lot of cycles. And we're just in a cycle right now where it's incredibly expensive because of all the fraud. Everybody's rates are rising. And all these carriers are pulling out. So what used to be, Lee, we used to have over 50. We're an independent agency. So I had 50 insurance carriers. I'd take your home. I'd run it through 50 companies, give you the most competitive possible rate. And we're talking, a quarter of the price that it used to be. Now, unfortunately, based upon where you are at in Florida, there's maybe 7, 8,
Yeah.
Again, and all that's based upon age of the home, distance to coast, what kind of inspection credits you have, your wind mitt, your 4-point, right? All those come into the factor of how, expensive or, competitive that price is. But the good news is there is legislation right now that's on the table. We are going to see some changes that are coming up, and it's taken a long time. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen overnight. As you know, in government and in politics.
Well, I mean, yeah, one of the things that people,
time.
yeah, and one of the things that people don't really understand is that the government is fighting tort law right now. They're really in a fight with attorneys because attorneys are trying to stop this. Yes. Because they want the lawsuits because they make money. Right. So the roofing companies and the lawyers are working against anything happening good for the homeowner because they're going to lose tons of money if this thing gets straightened out, which it's going to get straightened out.
It will. Sure. You hit it perfectly on the head, and it just takes a little bit of time. Unfortunately, somebody asked me the other day. They said, "Dude, this has been going on for a year, and it's all even a little over a year."
Oh, it's been going on longer than that.
Yeah, I said it's been going on longer than that. But they said, "When is it going to stop?" And I said, "Listen, things are in motion right now where there is a silver lining." Okay. Just, as you know, it just takes some time. And I said, I wouldn't expect it to happen within the next 12 to 24 months. I think we're going to continue to see on the homeowners insurance side, a little bit higher rates, and more carriers. We've seen 13 plus carriers in the last several years that have either gone into receivership, pulled out, or are no longer writing. We just had a handful in the last year that have gone, followed that exact same suit. So, it always gets a little worse before it gets better. But it's now been such a hot topic, and homeowners insurance is such a hot topic that now it's getting the recognition it needs to make the changes that are coming,
Right. And a lot of legislators live in that area up in west on the West Coast. Yep. And so they got affected by this. So when politicians tend to get affected by something, they tend to start doing something about it. So, our governor can get a little help there. Couple of things that I heard, and I'll just kind of run it past you. One of the things they're talking about is what most people don't understand. We have two policies here, correct? We have a homeowner's policy and you have a wind policy. So
Correct. Yeah.
correct, right? So one of the things I heard is that, they're talking about making Citizens just a wind policy company only, because the CEO is freaking out because he can't handle all this business that all these people that are coming towards him, homeowners, every time there's a big cancellation. And the other thing I heard is that they're looking at making insurance kind of like car insurance, where if your roof is 10 years old and you make a claim against it and it needs a full replacement, then they're going to, it's going to be a 10-year roof you're getting replaced, not a brand new roof.
Yeah, great points on both of those, and definitely some validity to both, right? So the first one, I mean, it is wild, because if you think through, Citizens used to be, this is their tagline almost, when we would talk about Citizens, they used to be the insurance of last resort.
Right.
If you had any other
that was just like 5 years ago.
Yeah, no, correct. And if you had any other company that you could place them in, and we used to, again, we have every single carrier that's riding in Florida. So it used to be the carrier that, man, if it was the worst of the worst, that's where the home was going in Citizens for whatever reason. Now we are seeing it as truly the number one option, here in the state of Florida. And, as far as, you are absolutely right, you have a wind and X-wind portion of every policy, right? Most policies, they're combined into one policy. You have wind and X-wind. So the wind, which is covering normally, hurricane, wind damage, any storms that are happening from that. And then X-wind, which is pretty much anything that's not related to that, right? So fire, theft, vandalism, water damage, anything else and that together combines for all perils that could happen to your home. The Citizens is a state-run program,
right?
The government-run state-run program. So it's almost, it used to be, we used to think of it as like almost like, well, it's like welfare, it's just
right.
When you have that, there are certainly right now some pros to it, that there is so much money that's being pumped into, and a piece of everything that is being paid is going into that government-run program, that state-run program, because that's the one thing that right now cannot go. I mean, we can't lose Citizens, because now we have a catastrophic event on our hands. But you said it, man, earlier, we are in an insurance crisis that we're seeing right now. So, fortunately, Citizens, which has skyrocketed in the amount of volume that they're taking on, is, they're doing the best. But my gosh, when you take something from 0 to 100 in a short amount of time, there is so much that is involved in that there are certain problems. The second piece that you said, which is very true, we now have a lot of carriers that are saying their underwriting guidelines are changing based upon everything you just said, right? Is the roof on a comp shingle, is it 10 years? Is it 15 years? Is it 20? Anything over 20 right now, we're having to go to excess markets or things like that. But man, a lot of those underwriting guidelines are tightening up, and even saying, okay, well, we'll do the home at replacement cost, but that roof's going to be at actual cash value, and so, which is different than what we've ever seen. And sometimes the issue with that, Lee, is the lender requirements must be at replacement cost. So we're having to go through and fight a lot of these on the insurance side, because if you have some actual cash value as part of that structure, it may or may not be accepted by those lender underwriter requirements. So it's an interesting time of change right now. That's happening on all sides, but you're absolutely right. We've seen a lot of what you have heard is in the process of being talked about, and there's both sides to it. But man, change is coming. That change is coming.
Right, and with the market just so unaffordable right now for so many people, this insurance piece makes it more unaffordable. I mean, with new construction, you're pretty much in good shape.
Yeah.
I mean, but and so I try to push as many people that coming down into new construction or homes under 5 years old, especially younger people, so that they don't get end up having to get slapped over the head with insurance. Answer this to me, because I've heard this too, that if someone has made a claim on their roof and they go to sell their home, the buyer in some of these insurance companies are having to have higher insurance because there was a claim. Have you seen that?
Yeah, so great question, man. And claims in general is obviously a big topic, especially when you're talking about home insurance, right? And I always, even before I jump onto that part, I always want to encourage people, right? When you are going through that claims process, make sure you have all of your ducks in a row, right? Meaning, I've seen people that have put in claims that don't even meet their deductible, and I'm like, oh no, let's be smart about this. If you have legitimate damage, and there's going to be a lot of money that needs to absolutely put in a claim, right? But what you want to be really careful of is putting in a claim for a $300 job that you could fix, because the second you put that claim in, that goes on your claims history and record. And at that point, it may, I've seen people dropped because of claims, rates increase, during the renewal because of claims. We've seen people getting non-renewed because of claims. So make sure if you got a claim, absolutely walk through the claims process in the right way. But make sure you know all of your policy information, have everything ready, have your deck page, know all your coverages, and know your deductibles before you put that claim in. And then as far as, yes, so that's what I would say from the claim standpoint. As far as, the claims itself, once you go through that process, it isn't one that is, on new purchase. So let me back up for a second. If we're talking about, like legitimate claims for named storm, hurricanes, things like that, those are not supposed to be held against you. So if you had a tree that fell on your roof during Hurricane Irma, and you put in a claim for that, those are supposed to be considered in our industry acts of God, right? And
Right.
so those are not supposed to be held against you based upon that claims process, and whether that's the current insured, whether that's the new buyer that's taken over the home, those should. What does tend to hurt, and again, you got to think of it from the carrier standpoint. They're making sure that they don't have repeat offenders that are now trying to just soak money out of the insurance companies, right? So,
Right.
Our carriers are our partners too. We always fight on behalf of the client, but we got to make sure that we're doing what's best for the carriers as well. And so for us, if you have someone that's made 6 water damage claims in the last 2 years, well, bing, there's a light bulb that's going off that's
Right.
saying, are these truly legitimate claims, or is this just somebody who's constantly making claims? Because that will be held against them. And certainly can, based upon the history of that individual. You said it perfectly, Lee, and I know you specialize. Well, dude, you specialize in everything, but I know you're big on the new construction, as well as everything else in your area. That is the
But even then, I mean, like I put a couple of people in homes before the storm came over Port St. Lucie.
Yeah.
And those were both of those houses had tile roofs on them, and the valleys were leaking. And my inspector actually just put a new roof on his house, new tile roof, brand new, had been on for like 6 months. And he had leaks in the valleys.
Right.
I mean, those are like, $1,500 repairs,
Sure.
but you don't want to go be making a claim on that stuff. And you don't want to be replacing 4 or 5 year old roofs,
Right.
either, so it's like, I know for a lot of people it's aggravating, but it's a small, in the scheme of things, you don't want your insurance to go up, because just, fixing that roof that's a fixable thing.
Right. No, you're exactly right. In Florida, the two biggest inspection pieces that really make or break insurance or a deal, or could be a red flag for the carrier, is that wind mitigation inspection. Is big time. You don't need them obviously on brand new homes, but on older homes. If you have a home that's older than 2002. That wind mitigation inspection, which basically is a common misconception. A lot of people think it's just about, the hurricane protection, or there's about 7 different places on that inspection you can get credits for. And they're not small credits, man. We're talking hundreds of dollars, which in the long run on insurance can be thousands and thousands of dollars of savings. That wind mid is all about how the roof is attached to the structure of that home, right? So
Right.
Is it done with toenails, clips, single wraps, the size of the nails, the spacing of the nails? I encourage everyone, if it's an older home, get that wind mitigation done, because it will save you tons on the back end. And then the other one is you were talking about the 4-point inspection, right? That's showing you the 4 major parts of the home, electric, HVAC, roof, and plumbing, making sure they're all in good working order. You know, and you know, the question is, what happens if it's not, right? What happens if you have a home that's got some, you know, some bad electric, or, you know, and it just depends on the carrier. Some carriers will allow you to work with them. Hey, get this thing replaced, you know, within the first X amount of days after closing, send updated pictures and photos, you're good to go. Some carriers will say, nope, you got to get this thing fixed prior to even having a policy. But that's where we come in as agents, right? We're gonna work with the insured. We're gonna do everything we possibly can to get them the best possible rate, because our job is to make sure they got good coverage for a low price, and to make sure that they can close on the home. We want to be deal makers, not deal breakers, just like you do. You know what I mean?
Right. So, you know, obviously people need wind mitigation in the state of Florida. They need homeowners insurance when they own their home. I mean, that's just kind of given, right?
Yeah.
We got to have that. You know, but in the state of Florida, we can build a house that is, you know, can pretty much stand up to a Cat 5 hurricane as long as it doesn't hit by a tornado, right? You don't want to be in it, but it can. A lot of these homes are being built now. They can stand up to them. Yeah. So, talk a little bit about the flood insurance, because, you know, I know that the flood insurance on the West Coast is a real issue right now. Let's talk about that, but also talk about the flood insurance over here, because I know a lot of my clients ask me, you know, do I need flood insurance for my home? Yeah. Even though I'm not in a flood zone, or if you are in a flood zone, you know, that a lot of these flood zones in East Coast don't really flood, but, you know, it says flood zone. So cover that a little bit for us.
Man, I'm so glad you brought that up. I didn't know if we were going to talk about flood, but flooding is a huge hot topic right now as well. And you said it, man. And what's happened within, you know, the flood insurance and within this market is we've had a lot from FEMA have changed a lot of flood zones. You have a couple things, you know, a few years ago, you may have been in a non-hazardous zone or a low risk zone. And all of a sudden now you see that the zones have changed, and now you're in what's considered high risk. But long story short, yes, if you are in a high risk zone, your lender is going to require that you have flood insurance, right? A high risk zone could be A, AH, AE. There's a handful of different, you know, options, and it's all based upon the elevation of the home, right? If your home is elevated to a certain level or a certain amount, you may not be that home may not need flood insurance, right? If you are in a low elevated area, or the home is, you know, not elevated to a certain amount, then they're going to require you to have insurance. So everything used to be elevation certificates, right? Do you have an elevation certificate? That'll show us what zone you're in, all the different points to. Now, with what's happened in the flood industry, you don't even need an elevation certificate anymore. You have the NFIP, right? National carriers that don't require the cert anymore. And you have all of these private markets that are now coming into the flood space. And it's like homeowners now. We have over 20. This is crazily. We have every national and private flood carrier. We write flood in over 48 states. And we have over 20 private flood markets, which are now accepted from the lending side. So it's like the homeowners. You can shop your flood too. Please don't think there's only one option for flood anymore, because it is we've seen major differences on rates based upon, you know, national flood and private flood. And so it is a huge topic right now. Do you have to have the flood? Well, listen, if you are in a high risk mandatory flood zone, then yeah, you're going to need to get that flood and secure that as part of your loan in order. If you're not in a high risk zone, let's say you're in a low risk zone. The crazy thing is 25%, 1/4 of damage that came in the state of Florida from flooding were in non or low risk zones.
Right.
That's crazy, man.
That's what I try to tell my clients.
We live in Florida, bro. Everything's a flood zone. You know?
Everything's a flood zone. Yeah.
So you don't have to have it, but it may just be good to have in the back pocket just in case, because
in a place where you're not in a flood zone, it's pretty cheap, right?
It is cheap, man. You're talking anywhere between $450, $500 if you're in a low risk zone, and that's for the year. You know, and again, based upon the market and all these private carriers that have come in, we've seen rates that are incredibly competitive. I mean, low, even if you're in a high risk zone. So
Really? So talk a little bit about that for people on the West Coast. I mean, because they're getting hammered, man.
They are. And it just depends on the carrier and the company that you have access to, right? So we're a broker. We have access to every single market that's available, but it just depends on the carrier. I have seen the difference in the variety on a high-risk zone where it has been a difference between a $5,000 rate on the national insurance compared to a $500 rate with private flood.
Wow.
It really just depends. So my encouragement is shop just like the homeowners.
Give Todd a call, man, and like have him shop your insurance.
Shop your home,
if you're on the West Coast and listen to this, you need to call Todd.
You got it, brother. You got it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, and let's a couple extra questions because I'm just kind of things are running through my mind. So if somebody builds a house on the West Coast and it's on stilts, that lowers would that lower their flood insurance?
Yeah, I mean, they still may be in a high risk zone, but it typically, again, if they're on piers, pylons, something like that, then the elevation is going to be higher. But I tell you what, a lot of coastal areas and properties, no matter you could build that thing on up to the sky, but because of where they're at, they may require that flood insurance because all it takes is some runoff or a massive issue.
Well, the garages are usually on the bottom floor, so that's getting flooded, and if the cars,
you got it, brother. So it just depends on the area, but a lot of people. Let me clarify one thing. This is really importantly. A lot of people think that the homeowners insurance covers the flood. These are separate policies, right? So your homeowners insurance, you have to have if you have a mortgage, right? That's covering the structure of your home, covering your personal property, covering you from liability, general liability. So those are some of the major pieces of that. Flood is a separate policy, most often not included in the homeowners. And when we talk about flood, you're talking about excess water from the outside in that meets a criteria of either 2 miles or two houses, 2 homes. So there's a very specific criteria for that. It does not mean flood is not when a pipe bursts in your home and you walk in and you have water up to your ankles. Your homeowner's insurance should cover that for water damage. Flooding is, that outside that's coming in from runoff or debris or anything else.
Yeah, I've seen pools just overflow and flood people's homes, and that's a flood.
Exactly. And so it's not what people think about, like, okay, if I have a crack in my pipe or my water heater, no, that's covered by the water damage. You're good there. We're talking about flooding, which is, outside in. So I always want people think like, well, if I have insurance, I'm covered for flood, right? No. Those are separate policies, as you know, that may or may not be required by the lender.
Right. And I tell all of my clients too, like, especially if you don't have impact glass, like if you don't have impact glass, I mean, some of these storms we get in Florida, like just regular rainstorms are like hurricanes, man. And I've seen where something flies through somebody's window and the rain just pouring in their house and they're ended up with a flood. And then the insurance isn't covering it because it came from outside.
Yeah, it's you're correct that obviously the newer homes, if they're and the impact glass, if you have hurricane or shutters or impact glass, and again, that's going to be the best way to protect that home in the midst of a storm or a hurricane or something like that. I mean, if you're talking, let's say, there's damage to the roof, water is seeping in. Okay, that's good. You're covered for anything like that on the homeowner side. When you're talking about rising waters that are coming from the ground up and are seeping in, and you see, I mean, dude, we've all seen the videos of the devastation. We've watched it where cars are floating down the river and homes are floating down the river. And I'm telling you, at any given time when we have these hurricanes hit, the amount of water that it starts to stir up in all of these other areas can be catastrophic. So listen, the bottom line, I don't want to spend too much on the flood, but the bottom line is if you question it, it may be a good thing to have just in your back pocket, even if it's not required. You don't have to.
We believe in having it, man. I believe in having it,
And I was going to mention, last thing is the good thing too, Lee, is what I sometimes tell people, if they're tight on their debt to income ratio or they're trying to qualify because the home insurance is high, dude, let's get you through the home. Get closed on the home. Let's not mess with the numbers right now. Let's get the home insurance on the home and then call me back in a week and we can add on the flood insurance, because I don't necessarily want to mess with that DTI or the ratios now. But
Right.
the beauty of it is, Lee, you can add that at any time. You know what I mean? At any point, just to make sure.
Yeah, and that's before we move on, that's a really good point, because, you know, we run into that a lot, especially right now. We have a lot more first-time buyers in the market, and so, you know, they're trying to crank that DTI, especially at prices where we are, and insurance and mortgage rates. I mean, it's the three killer right now. And so if they're trying to buy, you know, we're trying to tweak that thing down, is get the DTI down. And guys, you're a big help with that kind of stuff, of being able to work with the lender and the agent and really get that, you know, team up and let's get the deal done. Get them in the house, and then we can change the whole policy once they're in the house.
Listen, I said it at the beginning. Our job is to assist in making sure that they're covered, but that they get to closing, right? And so we work. We work all sorts of magic to make sure that we get them to closing, right? And the goal for us is to make sure that you said it, man. If they need a policy that is covering the home and is making sure that, you know, it's got replacement costs and the dwelling is approved. But I'm telling you, if you want to go, you know, a little bit lower on your personal property, if you want to, you know, just have kind of a bare bones policy to get you in that house, okay, we can do that. Then once you're in there, or once you're established, or at renewal, or at some point you want to lower your deductible, right? We can get you in with a 5% if that's what you want. And then come renewal, or, you know, a little bit at any point, we can change the coverages. We can add things on. I can put on additional packages. I can put replacement costs in your contents. Man, we can add all the bells and whistles you want. But sometimes, as you know, with that debt to income, man, the insurance can make or break that deal. And so your debt is your debt. Your income's your income. Your taxes are your taxes. That insurance is one of those flexible items that if you're going to the mom and pop shop down the street that only has one carrier that, you know, is next to the Blockbuster that's no longer there.
Right.
They may not be getting you the best
I miss
rate.
Blockbuster, man. I used to love to go to Blockbuster and get the movie, and you could smell like movie. You know, you could smell the plastic when you walked in. You know,
you're there for 30 minutes trying to sort through what you have.
Like reading the back, you know, checking the movie out. I mean, you know, there are things that we're losing here that
I agree with you.
I miss, you know.
You're spot on. My point is, it's like when you go to get a flight, though, right?
Right.
You don't just
want to shop.
You go to Google Flights, you go to Kayak, you go to Travelocity, because you want all the options. We're the same in that. We're a broker that will take you through everybody to make sure that you get the best option.
Anyone watching my channel knows my lender, Brent Starts at United Lending, and, you know, he's a mortgage broker, and the same with you. You know, the beauty of mortgage brokers is that you guys can shop. One-stop shop. You can shop all the rates for someone and find that lowest rate, and that's what Brent does. That's what you guys do. And that's the beauty of, you know, being a broker, because you have that multiple companies. A couple of questions for you in and up. So first of all, obviously we know if you're buying new construction and it has impact glass in it, I mean, that's your best thing, a concrete block, top to bottom home with impact glass, strapped roof, you know, new shingles, everything, you know, that's going to be your best bet. But for someone buying a resale, okay, what are you telling a buyer to look for to minimize the amount of insurance costs that they're going to have? Because that is a problem. And you know, I'm not picking on other agents, but an agent that's not, you know, been in the market for a while. They don't really realize that, you know, they're price shopping, you know, and I tell my clients, look, we can price shop, but once we get over 15 years on that roof, really once we get over 10 years on that roof, the price shopping changes, because now you're price shopping and you're looking for, you know, to stay in your debt to income, but your insurance is creeping up on you at $1,000 a click. So what would you say to a buyer? Hey, you know, Todd, what do I want to look for to get the best insurance rate I can on a new construction?
Yeah, great Perfect question, man. And this is anybody that's listening. This is why you are who you are and you do what you do, because you are an expert at all these little pieces, man. And
I appreciate that, dude.
You are
I just care about people, man. I'm
I'm
not in this deal to sell somebody. I'm talking clients out of selling their homes right now, man.
No,
because I'm like, man. Dude, time's on our side, right? You know, so my lender and my wife make a joke. I'll talk people out of not buying a home or selling their home faster than I will to do it, because I'm looking out for the client. Look, man, I'm blessed. Our business is blessed. You know, this channel's a blessing for us. So we're just trying to help people here make good decisions. And I know I get a lot of comments that, you know, I don't know what I'm talking about, but, you know, but I do know what I'm talking about. I've been on both sides of this deal. I've flipped houses. I've been in commercial real estate. I mean, I understand the real estate market in Florida. So I appreciate that. But
no, you prove it. You prove it every day, man. And yeah. So as far as the and I speak all across the country at different venues and different places. We sponsor a lot of groups and events and things like that. And one of the things that I speak on when I speak to mortgage and real estate groups is kind of what's called the red flags of homeowners insurance, right? I do an entire presentation based upon that. So you are absolutely right. Everybody these days on the carrier standpoint is wanting the newer homes, newer built, new construction, because man, those rates are cheap. That you know, everything is there's normally historically not nearly as many problems, right?
Right.
On the older homes, on a resale, on somebody, things just to watch out for. And it doesn't mean, I want to be clear, it doesn't mean necessarily, and this is where you come in as the expert, doesn't mean you should either abandon or move forward with it. They're just things to know, so that part of this is you take this back to your real estate agent, and now you have some negotiation tools. Or now you have some at least things to talk about and touch. Should I do this? Should we fix this? But it really is what we talked about before. The big four, man. The big four are certainly the roof, age of the roof, right? Is there anything going on with that roof? Are there cracked tiles? Is there cupping? Is there curling? Is there loose tabs? Is there anything going on with that? And you'll see those in the inspections. But roof age and roof quality is huge in the price and rate of who's going to take you, right? The other
what
two,
would you say try to stay under 10 years? Would you
listen, if you can stay under 10 years, you're hitting a home run. Okay.
Yeah.
Anything over that, if you're in the 10 to 15 year marks, we do have carriers. There are carriers that will take you. Okay. So just because you got a 12-year-old roof, I wouldn't say, nope, abandon it. No. Still look at it and know that there are carriers that will take you. They may just be a little bit more expensive, right? Because they're taking on greater risk. Right. So anything 10 years and under, you're golden. Even between that 12, that 10 and 15 range, you have options. Anything, 15 and certainly past 20 years is where the carriers are going to start to say, we're not really sure we want that. Now, there are a handful of carriers that will still accept, whether that's a Citizens or whether that's an excess and surplus market. Here's the key. You have to look at the age of life remaining on that roof. As long as you have realistically 5+ years, you're okay. All right. You're okay to get insurance. Citizens will allow you to go as low as 3+ years. So again, not that you want to necessarily go in that market, that's the number one, but the age of life left on that roof is key. You always want to look at that. Anything 10 and under, 15 and under, you're okay. And you've got options as far as the carriers, certainly. The other big couple ones are the electric. Now, especially more than ever, is big. You have a couple electric boxes that are kind of, what we'd consider bad breaker boxes. Federal Pacific, Zinsco. There's a handful of others. And again, we can see all that when we get that report. And that may be a quick fix. Hey, spend $1,800, switch that out. Or it may be something if there's improper grounding, and maybe it's now a bigger problem that they have to switch out all the electric. And again, that's where you guys come in as the negotiator, or as the one that's handling that transaction to figure out, is it worth it, is it not, what should I do here? Roof, electric, the plumbing, right? Making sure that the plumbing has been updated at some point. If it's not 60-year-old plumbing, right? Even if it's been changed out or it's been updated. There's a couple red flags on the plumbing. Poly plumbing, right? Polybutylene plumbing is kind of a no-no. That is shown to over time crack and cause leaks and have damage. There's certain types of plumbing, cast iron plumbing, polybut. There's just you want to have updated plumbing to where, you know, you're going to not have a water damage issue over time. Right.
Right.
And then the last one is that they've started to crack down on like the AC and heating. You just want to make sure you have an updated water heater, that it's been updated in the last several years. If you have a water heater that's 20 years old that is starting to bubble over and you see, okay, well, that may be something you want to have fixed or changed out but that's it, man. I mean, you know the roof, look at the roof age and what's going on there. Look at the electric, look at the plumbing and the heating and AC. As long as those are in good working condition, I always tell people will send me the inspections, but they also send me that 40-page full home inspection. And I say, whoa, I don't want to see every nook and cranny and crack that they put in there, because they do that. And there's good reason why they do that. From an insurance standpoint, what we want to see is that wind mitten 4-point, if it's an older home, making sure that it's in good working order. As long as it's in good working order, we're good to go on our end. I never want to see that full, it shows every little, I don't want to see that stuff, man.
Right.
But those are the big
and we can do this, once we have that inspection report, we can shoot that to you. You can knock that, get a quote within a day or two and have that back to us. So while we're in inspection, to make sure that, hey, look, we're going to be able to get this house insured and it's going to stay in the DTI. So you're not running over that inspection period.
100%. And not just that, even if you don't have the inspections yet, you can still shoot us over the name of the buyer and the address. We'll run it through our proprietary technology. I'll give you what would be considered estimated rates, even without the inspections, knowing our technology pulls all the characteristics of that home and the surrounding homes, and it's pretty darn accurate. Now, if that inspection comes back and it's a nightmare, the rate's going to go up a little bit. If it comes back and it's amazing, the rate's going to go down a little bit. But even we can certainly give quotes without inspections, and in big red letters, we'll still say, needs wind mitigation or 4-point inspection to validate the rate. But what I never want to have somebody wait. Well, we don't have the inspection. No, we can quote you right now. Give me 30 minutes. Boom, you'll have quotes in your inbox. And then once you get those inspections, send them in. We update everything. Now you're 100% good to go. Cool.
That's a great way to do things.
Yeah.
So to wrap it up, anything else you think it's important to add?
I would just say, listen, you've done a great job covering kind of all the major points of what we've talked about here. I think the biggest thing that I would let people know, and we talked about it or touched on it briefly, is we know that the insurance market is a wild one right now.
Right.
It is truly our job and something that I take massive pride in. We have a huge agency, right? We have 100, if you can see out these doors, I have 150 agents that are out here. We have divisions that specialize in very specific things. We have a high value division. I have a flood agent. We have a flood agency here, obviously, as we talked about. I have a division that works directly with mortgage and real estate. That's one of our quote slash divisions, right? So we have put together all of these, we have a division called New Build Insurance that works directly with new construction homes, and we get specialized rates on those. So we really have covered every area and aspect of insurance within any niche here within this country. But for us, what I always want to tell people is make sure that you do your due diligence shopping and understanding the insurance. Because half of what I do is what you're doing right now, Lee, is educating people. Because what scares me is when people grab a policy, have no idea what's in it, don't remember anything about it, and then all of a sudden something happens and they're like, oh boy, I better go back and figure out what I just got a policy for, right? And so that's why for me, and Lee, I know you do this so well, you as their advisor, you have all of your ducks in a row. You've got your mortgage guy, you've got your insurance team, you've got you obviously as the real estate guy, you've got because all it takes is for one of those to drop the ball and man, that deal can die or the insured doesn't feel like we've done a good job or you've done a good job, because you got to remember, a lot of these are new home buyers, people that are coming into the market, people that are trying to figure out or don't have the understanding of what insurance is.
Yeah, a lot of our clients, just because of YouTube, are coming from another state.
Yeah,
they don't understand. All they hear is all the negative stuff about Florida's insurance, hurricanes, alligators, bugs, and all that kind of stuff, right? So they don't hear, about like the reality of the situation here. I mean, we live in a beautiful state. It's a great place to live, it's just, we got a couple of issues like every other place does, at least we know when a hurricane's coming. We don't I was in California the first time I ever went to San Francisco. I ended up in an earthquake.
There you go.
That was weird, dude. I mean, you wake up in the middle of the night and everything's moving in the room, right? It's like what the hell's going on? Because I came out of Texas, Southeast Texas, so I was a kid when I think it was Alicia hit Houston, Galveston, and just wiped out Galveston and Houston. And I lived 2.5 hours from Galveston on this other side of Houston, a little town called Conroe, not little anymore, but we lived on a ranch, and it was tearing it tore pine trees out of the ground. I mean, just ripped them out of the ground, taproot and all. So I mean, just cracked them over. So I mean, it was unbelievable. Then I was here for Andrew. And watch that devastation happen. And so it's no joke. These hurricanes are no joke. If they hit right, man, they can do some damage. So, but people need to understand that it's not like we live in constant fear. You know what I mean? And especially today, especially on the East Coast, we're building houses now that can handle all of this wind, and we don't have a big flooding problem. On the West Coast, I know they're working on some things like barrier walls, barrier islands, things like that. They have ideas, but it kind of is what it is, but it's a great place to live.
No, you're 100% right on that. And listen, what we try to do is very similar to what you guys try to do. And this is why, appreciate obviously our friendship is, man, our job is to make this transaction, because buying a home, as more than anybody, that process can be tough, man. It's not always an easy process. There's all sorts of moving parts, right?
Especially now, man. These lenders are not playing anymore, and these insurance companies aren't either, man. They're not looking for foreclosures right now.
Correct.
I mean, the FHA just dropped because there aren't very few foreclosures, so they were able to bring the MI down on FHA. So. It's no joke, and you need to be, aware and have an agent that can work with you, an insurance agent that can work with you, a mortgage broker that can work with you, or mortgage company that's got your best interest at heart, not just trying to sell a policy or a house.
Perfectly well said, man. You took the words right out of my mouth, brother.
Right. Well, listen, man, I really appreciate you coming on today. How can folks get a hold of you directly?
Yeah, so a couple different ways. Obviously, you can contact me directly. My name is there. My email address, first initial T, last name Beal, so tbeall @insuranceexpress.com. Email me. We have an entire team that's here working and assisting with buyers, realtors, mortgage professionals. That is what we do all day, every day. So you can contact me. My direct line, 561-472-9862. And man, you can also, I will tell you, for the mortgage and real estate side, we have a website where they can go online and request quotes directly for their clients if they want to. It's www.quote/quoteslash.com. It is directly for realtors or mortgage professionals who are looking for quotes on behalf of their client. And those get turned very quickly. We're like a tech company that does insurance, man, but we've been doing it for a long time. And listen, I take pride in the fact that every day we're a small part in helping people get that one of their greatest assets that they'll ever get, man. And
right.
So I love that process. I love being part of it. And home insurance is a small part of that. And we appreciate, helping buyers and people that you guys are working with every single day.
Right. And I'll leave all that information in the information section below so people can just hit the information section and see your information. Hey, bro. Really, really appreciate it. Thanks for joining us today, Todd. It was really awesome. If anyone has any more questions or comments, they can leave them in the comment section below, or they can reach out to you directly. If you want to, if you're buying a home from us, we're gonna put you in touch with Todd here. So you're gonna get that anyways. I really, really appreciate you coming on today. I'm sure people are going to really like this. And also I think that, they can share it with their friends too. People are thinking about moving to Florida, their family members and stuff. So this is a really important part of buying a home. So really appreciate it, brother.
Lee, happy to help. You are the man. Keep killing it and doing what you're doing, man. And we will keep supporting as much and as often as we can, brother. Appreciate you so much.
All right. Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. And it lets me know I'm creating the content that you're interested in. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to hit that subscribe button right there and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of our real estate tips and tours. It's completely free and it really helps the channel grow, and we appreciate it. And again, you can watch our next video right there on how to buy new construction here in South Florida. Be kind to each other, and we'll see you on the next video.